Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Welcome. Cavani will miss Manchester United's game against Newcastle this weekend, officially confirmed due to isolation protocol, of course, which I think, again, further highlights some of the major problems Man United have had when it comes to managing themselves properly as a football club. And I think we've seen this multiple times now where we're just not quite, as we say, managing ourselves right. We're not behaving in the right way. We haven't got our ducks in a row in our planning. We need Cavani. We need a striker ahead of this game, but he will be missing. Of course, Anthony Martial missing as well because he got himself stupidly sent off, has really caused us problems. So the door opens up for Ighalo. Do you want to see Ighalo start? Should Mason or Rashford be moved into a more central position? Does this mean Dan James plays again? We want your views and we want your opinions on that right about now. Aside from that, I want to speak about Paul Scholes. Paul Scholes has come out on the attack today. Legitimately out on the attack towards Manchester United, saying that Anthony Martial conned us, saying that we need a top-class striker. Edeinson Cavani is not that guy. It should, a player like Cavani's age and level right now, he should be a loan signing only, not someone that would give a 2-year deal to. I want your thoughts on what Paul Scholes has said. Do me a big favor and smash the like button. It's so important to the Football Terrace that we get that done. Hit the like button now. Hit the share button now. We're here for the next half an hour or 45 minutes or so. Skype lines are going to open for you right about now as well. Your opinions really do count. Genuinely, they do count. Like, I want to know what everybody's thinking, feeling, and saying, and all that jazz. So, and I really mean that. I really mean that. So, I'm really getting bad sound in my ears. I can't hear anything. I don't know if the sound's coming through okay to yourselves. Let me know if it is or if it isn't, because I'm getting really weird sound. If none in my ears. So let me know if you guys can hear me or not. That'd be great. Comment here says United need to grow up. That's from Twisted Bubba. What a weird comment, Twisted Bubba. What do you mean United need to grow up? You know, when you guys leave these kind of comments, I respect them, right? I respect them. But apply context, because I have no idea what you mean. I no idea what you mean with that comment. It makes no sense, like 0 sense without context. So please apply some context to what is being said. Let's go through Paul Scholes' comments here. First and foremost, I don't really care about the headlines. I want to know what he's actually said. Do you know what the problem is with so many of these websites now? Is there's so many adverts, is in pictures of adverts on the page in front of you. It's hard to actually read articles. It really is. Let me just go to Twitter because I had this stuff a little bit earlier. That'll make it a little bit easier. So let me just. It's all a bit. I can't hear. I can normally hear myself in my own ears, and I can't today, which is very strange. Very strange indeed. I don't know why that is. It's actually annoying me. It probably shouldn't. I should probably just be like this. Cool. Don't worry about it till. But it's gonna bother me. Legitimately, I am annoyed by it. I am annoyed by it. I can't hear anything, and it's frustrating looking daylights out at me. But there we go. Let's go and find these tweets. Let me go. Well, not tweets, but let me go and find these comments that have been tweeted out, because it's going to frustrate me because this website isn't working too great. More bad news. Aaron Wan-Bissaka been caught speeding at 104 miles an hour in the second week of the national lockdown. Oh, Jesus Christ. More bad news. It doesn't rain, it pours. If it doesn't rain, it pours here. So here's what Paul Scholes had to say in relation to Anthony Martial. He said, the problem with Man United's forwards is that none of them are actual centre forwards. Martial almost conned us into thinking he was at the end of last season because he was scoring so many goals and was quite good. He says Martial started the season quite poorly again, which makes you think he isn't a centre forward. It's misleading. That's why I keep saying we need a top-class number 9. Do you think that's a fair comment about Anthony Martial from Paul Scholes? Let us know what you think. Let us know what you feel in relation to that. I'm really intrigued to find out what you think on that one. I really, really am. And in relation to Cavani missing the game, is this more bad planning from Man United, or is this just a little bit of bad luck because of what's going on? We will have him available for the Paris Saint-Germain game. Maybe that's a little iconic. It's a little romantic. We all love that in football. But who should replace him in the first team? Give us a call now. Get yourselves on the air. First call up. We don't know your name. It's a bunch of random letters. And now you've got bad signals. That's not loading through either. Try when you call the show, please call the show with good signal. Wherever you are, good signal is always going to be needed. It really, really is. Let's do some of your live comments. It might sound harsh, but he's right. Deeper, more comment, please. Itest here says, I agree with Paul Scholes. How can you be a centre forward and not make good movement in behind the defence? I don't see him roll defenders like a top striker should. Itest thinks Paul Scholes is right. Phone the show and tell us what you think. Up next, we have Amir Iqbal. Amir Iqbal. How you doing, bro?
I'm good. How you doing, Terry, man?
I'm very, very well, thank you. What do you make of both sets of news? Well, firstly, Cavani missing the game, but then the comments from Paul Scholes about Martial not being a proper number 9 anyway.
So, first of all, Cavani missing the game because of isolation?
Yes.
Is he quarantining?
Yes.
So that's fine. It is as expected. There's nothing we can do about that. United shouldn't be in a huff about that. I think the only reason why there's any attention on that is because of Martial slapping that guy in the last game and getting that red card. That's the only reason why we even care. Because if we had Martial, everyone would be like, oh, he's just replacing Gallo. He's just going to start on the bench. He's going to need a few games to warm in. Now, because we're lacking that striker position, it just highlights our need and our lack of depth in that position as well. Because really, Rashford's not a striker. And Gallo's not up to their top quality. And Cavani is the only real centre-forward that we have in the squad. And he's 33 years old and he's ineligible to play. So it's not particularly good at the moment. And regarding Scholes, what did Paul Scholes say? He was saying Martial's not a proper number 9, was it?
He said he's not a proper number 9. He's conned us because he scored lots of goals, but he doesn't do all. I think a lot of people are taking his comments out of context. I think Aaron tweeted saying, well, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. It's not about the goals with Martial. I think what I'm reading into what Paul Scholes has said is, he doesn't hold the ball up well enough. Doesn't make the correct runs. He doesn't bring other people into play as often as he should. So it's all the other elements. It's a bit like Lukaku in a way. He's different to Lukaku. Lukaku scored goals, but didn't do all the other things that a Man United centre forward needs to do. In your opinion, is Martial the number 9 that we can put our faith in for the next 4 or 5 years to make us Premier League champions again?
Well, it's not your standard type of number 9. It's not your typical British centre forward that's like 6'5" and going to be a target man. And we can't expect him to do that job for us either. He's not really Andy Carroll. He's not going to be one of those kind of Peter Crouch kind of guys who are just going to be an aerial threat. He is a silky footballer who likes to play on the floor. And unfortunately, we don't have enough chances created for him on the floor where he can do much with them. As it stands right now, that's a team situation as opposed to just a Martial one. In terms of his clinical nature, I think he's probably our best finisher, him and Greenwood in the club. So in terms of his finishing ability, it's second to none from me. I think really, we're all just complaining because we don't see him bullying defenders and we don't have that big, stocky number 9, like really someone who could play with his back to net. That's what we're missing in our whole squad. If we had someone who could do that job, then we wouldn't ask Martial to do that because we'd appreciate that we'd have different strikers to carry out different roles. Remember when Fergie was doing it and he had 4 strikers with Sheringham, Solskjaer, Cole and York?
Yeah. We
had 4 very different strikers. You wouldn't ask Sheringham to do the job of a Cole, would you? And similarly, we're asking Martial to do jobs that's just not in his physical remit. It's not his capability to do that. We shouldn't ask him to do that.
And I understand that. And I think this is where, like, with Paul Scholes, somebody asks him a question and he answers it. And quite often, journalists are very, very clever. When they want a sort of sensationalist headline, they ask you a question in a particular way, you answer it, and then they stop. And they put your comment out. So rather than asking Paul Scholes to explain what he means, what I would do if I was interviewing Paul Scholes is, how good do you think Martial is? Where do you think his best position is? What brilliance and excellence does he bring to Manchester United? And is it a case of you think we need Martial and sort of a more traditional number 9? And you probably find that Paul Scholes would praise Martial in loads of areas and say, absolutely. What I'm talking about is we need a Harry Kane or we need a younger Cavani or a Haaland. I think you mentioned Haaland later on in the interview, and they all work together. but they leave it as it is, and then interpretation comes into play. Some people read it as, oh yeah, Martial isn't a good enough number 9. He's right. Other people say, oh, he's slagging off Martial again. I don't care what his context. I don't even want to learn about the context. I'm just going to say Paul Scholes is a hater. And do you get where I'm coming from? Like it's. I feel a bit sorry for Paul, even though I disagree. Like I wouldn't use the words that Paul Scholes done around Condas in terms of. I don't think he's Martial's conned anybody. Martial is what Martial is as a football player, and I think it can work. But I do understand some people that think this Man United team needs a quality number 9 who can finish and strike well to the same sort of standard as a Martial, but equally the hold-up play and the interchange, and sometimes the ability to knock a ball in diagonally to them is doable. Some people think that is needed, and I think I understand that as well. So it's a real interesting one how people interpret that. Amir, thank you very much for coming on, having your say. Next up on the show, we have Ab. Ab is with us. Ab, what do you want to say about these comments from Paul Scholes and Cavani missing Saturday's game against Newcastle?
I love Paul Scholes, but he just needs to be quiet. Literally, why is it Man United are the only team that have legends come out and just say things? He just needs to be quiet. Just if you look at what Martial does, he suits the system of our attacking three. If you bring in Aubameyang, for example, he doesn't suit the system. People say Aubameyang doesn't hold up the ball, he doesn't do this, doesn't do that. Let's just see how things go. Even if you put Haaland in this team, he's not going to do any better or score any goals. And Cavani, this Cavani signing just took my breath away, and I'm not really fussed about it.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But on Paul Scholes, if you're doing an interview and somebody asks him that question, should he not tell you how? I mean, do you not feel there's anything right in what he says? Do you not think that we would improve more as a team if we had a Haaland, if we had a Lewandowski, if we had a Harry Kane as our centre forward, and we utilised Martial as either playing off the striker or playing on either of our flanks? Would that not make Man United a more potent team, in your opinion?
No, I actually don't think so. I think no matter what striker you put in this team at the moment, I think they will struggle. Fundamentally, our team and structure is just not there for a number 9 to do well. Even if you're going to bring back prime Thierry Henry or prime Van Nistelrooy, they're not doing any better or any worse than what Martial is doing at the moment.
In regards to what you mean in terms of, hold up play would be better though, right? Or do you think Martial does a good enough job? Did he run the channels right? Did he do what a striker should do?
If you actually analyze the game, Martial makes subtle runs, the same as Rashford and Greenwood, but the ball is not given early enough. We keep the ball far too long and allow teams to get the structure back in place. If we move the ball a lot more quicker to our actual front three, you'll see them create the space. If you actually see the runs Martial makes and Rashford and Greenwood, they actually make the runs, but the balls just don't come quick enough. And people saying a traditional number 9, we had Rom there, and people said his hold-up play is not good, even though he made the runs off the ball. The problem is that Man United, everyone wants them to be something that they're not. Like, we should stop trying to be a typical number 9 team like Tottenham, and let's just see what Ollie's trying to do. Because even to get a Lewandowski, Harry Kane, or even a Haaland, you're spending over 60 million plus. So, and realistically, we both know our board is not going to spend that type of money at the moment.
Mate, I think you make some really great points, Ab. Thank you very much for coming on the show and having your say. If you agree with Ab, let us know. Should Paul Scholes just keep his mouth shut? Next up on the show, we have Dan. Dan, welcome back to the Football Terrace. What's your name? What team do you support? Sorry.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. What team do you support, Dan?
Yeah, I'm an Arsenal fan.
You're an Arsenal fan?
I'm talking as a mutual point of view.
Yeah, go for it.
Personally, for me, I understand your pain as a Man United fan because you signed Cavani, I think, just to shut the fans up, for me, in my opinion, just because you didn't sign Sancho, but it's not going to work out. I don't agree how you've done the business contract of it. 2 years with 200, is it 250k?
It's 100k, rising to 200k a week, pending the amount of goals scored, winning games. But it's also a 1 year deal with an extension that we can trigger. So it's only 1 year, and if he doesn't do very well, he gets paid a lot less than they're reporting, and of course we can let him go next year. So the structure of the deal isn't too bad. Like if he has an absolute flop, if he has a Falcao season, he'll be gone. They won't renew it for a second year.
Okay. Yeah, I personally don't think this is a good right fit for Manchester United, in my opinion. And what Paul Scholes said, he's telling the truth, in my opinion. And that's where I respect the legends, because some legends, they tell the truth and they say it how it is. And I think Paul Scholes is one of that person, and he knows what it's like to play for Manchester United. He's arguably the greatest midfielder ever to play in the Premier League. For me, it's Patrick Vieira, but Paul Scholes is right up there. But
so when you say
Cavani,
you agree with what he's saying about, he said Cavani isn't the right sign. Do you agree with his comments about Anthony Martial, that he's not a proper number 9, and that's where United need to invest? Because he basically said he wasn't even disappointed that we didn't land Sancho, because he doesn't think we need a Sancho. He thinks we need a Haaland, a Harry Kane, a Lewandowski, a proper number 9.
I agree.
Explain that, though. What don't we get? What would that kind of player give us that Anthony Martial doesn't?
Well, I think Martial can play in that number 9. Don't get me wrong. But for Manchester United is a club that wants to be first, because that's Manchester United are for competing titles, not top 4. If you're playing Martial in the number 9 territory, he can get into top 4. But is top 4 what Manchester United really want? The size and the structure? It's getting first, winning the titles. And I think you'd need better. But I think Martial is good enough for Manchester United. I personally think Haaland would have been perfect for Manchester United. I think you need more of a Haaland. You need a Sancho, but I think you need more of a Haaland than a Jadon Sancho.
There we go. Dan, thank you very much for calling the show. Agrees with Paul Scholes. In his opinion, we need a better central striker than Anthony Martial. Call us now. The Skype lines are open. Search Football Terrace FC on Skype. Call in now. Come and have your say. Next up, we have got, who we're going to have on the show next? Next up, we're going to have, I'm going to try and pronounce this right, Dolapo. Welcome to the show. Who do you support, mate? Yeah, do me a favor, bro. Call back and turn down that device in the background. We've got TJ United on the show. TJ United, Martial, is he good enough in your opinion? That Arsenal fan just said Paul Scholes is right. He is not. What's your opinion, mate?
Well, I think he's actually good enough. What I think is Paul Scholes' problem is because Martial is not English. Had Martial been an English lad that came up through our system, Paul Scholes and Gary Neville would be saying 2 different things. I know that.
So they don't. You say that Gary Neville and Paul Scholes don't praise non-British English players.
They have a bias towards Martial. I don't hear they come out and talk about Jesse Lingard. You ever hear those guys say anything about Lingard?
Lingard's not playing.
Yeah, but those guys will not come out and say Lingard is not good enough. Lingard should leave. They will come out and say Martial should leave. But I never hear they talk about homegrown players. They have a bias towards overseas players.
So why have they praised Bruno Fernandes?
Well, Bruno Fernandes is obvious. They can't go around that one. There's no scapegoat there.
So I'm playing devil's advocate here. So they praise the players that are performing and they criticize the players that are not. But you think that's to do with nationality, not the fact that one's doing well and the others, in their opinion, are not. So you think it's purely to do because they're foreign, and Gary Neville and basically what you're saying, let's speak it right. You're saying that Gary Neville and Paul Scholes are bigots.
They have a bias towards foreign players. I listen to them all the time, and that they always talk about those guys with a different impression. I don't hear those guys come out and call out Rashford when he's not playing well, but one bad game for Martial and those guys will be there saying we need a Harry Kane. We don't necessarily need a Harry Kane because the system we're trying to play is a fluid front three that can interchange. That was the reason.
TJ, it's interesting. It's an interesting point you make. And if anyone else wants to phone up and think they've got a bias, come and tell me why. But you missed out a very important name there. You said Martial plays badly, and they say we should bring in a Harry Kane or a Haaland. Haaland is also not homegrown and not English. So literally one of the players that Paul Scholes says we should sign is foreign. So if he's got a bias and doesn't like foreign players, why is one of his suggestions a foreign player?
Holland is a different type of number 9 from Martial. I can understand, but
Okay, but my point
what
that isn't my point. That isn't my question, TJ. My question is, if Paul Scholes is this guy that doesn't like foreign players, as you're suggesting, why would one of his replacements for Anthony Martial be a foreign player? That's the bit that doesn't make sense to me in relation to this. But TJ, thank you very much for your call. If anybody agrees with TJ and he thinks that Paul Scholes and Gary Neville have their bias, call us and let us know. Michael is on the show now. Michael, why does Paul Scholes not rate Martial? What's your opinion?
I don't know why he doesn't rate him. I mean, he's a good player. I mean, he scored 17 goals last season in the Premier League, level with Rashford.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Like, the thing is, like, listen, I've been critical about Martial a little bit because of he can be like, sometimes he's not clinical enough, but he can hold the ball well. He's a very intelligent player. You know what I mean? And the problem is as well is Martial doesn't get enough service in the midfield. So sometimes you see him in games where he gets isolated. Do you know what I mean? Like he criticises Martial, but I don't get why he never criticises Rashford. Do you know what I mean? Like, personally, for me, I don't really like.
Well, I think what today's point, case in point today, I can't speak about all previous things you said, but look at this one. He's been questioned about the number 9 position. And you hear him say, we don't need a Sancho because we already have 3 similar players to that. And the journalist didn't do this, so I'm only guessing here, but I think he would put Martial into that base. You would say Greenwood, Rashford, Martial are already sort of Sancho-esque type players. They can play centrally and they can play left and they can play right. What he's saying is that the club needs a traditional number 9 through the middle. He actually hasn't said that Martial is a bad football player. I don't remember him saying that in recent times. I just think he's saying that he would prefer to see a traditional number 9 play through the centre and have the Martials, the Rashfords and the Greenwoods playing off of him in these kind of inverted inside forward roles, which I don't think is a bad thing. That's my interpretation of it, but a lot of people think differently.
The thing about Mason Greenwood is, if you put a lot of people watch him, Greenwood is a good player. Like, I don't often rate some English players, but with Greenwood, he's a very good player. The problem with Greenwood is as well, if you watch him in some games, the game bypasses him at times because he likes to. Because the difference between Sancho and Greenwood is a natural striker playing as a wide player. So at times he doesn't often like. You see him cutting in the middle with like Martial and Rashford does, and when he's not in the game, he just like the game just bypasses him. So you see, there's some matches where players just literally just cut him out of the game, and he's just nowhere to be seen for most of the match. That's the issue with Greenwood. If he's playing in the middle, I think we'll probably see more of him. That's just my opinion.
It's interesting you make that comment. We had a previous caller say like Paul Scholes has an issue because the players are foreign, and then you sort of just said that you don't really normally rate English players. I find that a really interesting choice of words. But Michael, my bro, I appreciate you coming on and having your say. Thank you very much. Some super chats here. The first one from DJ Steele, who says, "I wish we had Martial at Arsenal because he's one of the best at taking on defenders, and he makes a lot of his own chances." Yeah, look, I love Anthony Martial, and again, let me restate my point. I think Martial is a brilliant player. I love seeing him play through the center. Would I like a Haaland or a Harry Kane at Man United? Of course I would. But I still think Martial has a massive future at the club and can do some brilliant things for Manchester United. I think the two things can work simultaneously together. Another super chat from Strip Bear says, as a mighty Chelsea fan, it's disappeared in front of my eyes. Sometimes they do this, these comments. I have them ready to go. There we go. It's back. As a mighty Chelsea fan, I'm rather happy with Man United at the moment. Sorry, Terry. Of course you are. Of course you're happy with it. Next up on the show, we've got Ryan. Ryan, welcome to the Football Terrace. What do you make of these comments about Martial? What's your opinion, bro?
Honestly, I don't understand why people have like this agenda with Martial. Because think about it, if we have De Bruyne, if we have people like Kane or Haaland or Benzema or Suarez, how will that help if we don't create enough chances? Because now that we have Telles, we have Bruno and we have Telles to whip a ball into the box for Martial. It's not enough. Right? If we play, for example, if we play Rashford and Martial up front as a front two and we play a back five, it won't help because Wan-Bissaka can't attack from the right, but Telles can attack on the left, meaning teams would know that, okay, if we double up on the left, Wan-Bissaka will hardly do anything on the right. And if you have people like Kane, people won't be worried because they know that if you neutralize Bruno, if you neutralize Pogba, you neutralize Telles, there's no ball going into Harry Kane. There's no ball going into Haaland. And like as we are right now, we do create chances, but we don't create enough chances for a proper number 9. That's why I like Martial, because he's more of a deep laying forward. He comes in deep, he gets the ball, and he runs towards the defense.
I understand. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think Martial gets so much criticism from the media and from a proportion of Manchester United fans?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. I think it's just like one of those homegrown bias type things. Because usually pundits always point at Harry Kane as the first person United should buy. Go buy Harry Kane, go buy Harry Kane. I've never heard them say, why don't you go get Icardi, or why don't you go get Lautaro Martinez, or someone not homegrown? Why does it always have to be Harry Kane specifically?
Well,
but yes, Haaland.
Yeah, I get that. I think a lot of it comes down to what football you watch. Like, I don't watch European football, so I don't really make very many suggestions about signing players from the continent because I'm not watching them on a regular basis. We also know as well with Harry Kane. I think one of the reasons Harry Kane is top of a lot of pundits' lists is because people say it's an obvious choice, but it's obvious because he's Premier League proven. And if somebody's Premier League proven, there's generally speaking less of a risk when signing them. But of course, it's never ever foolproof in relation to that. But Ryan, I think you make some really good points. I certainly think there's a bias towards Martial. I think there's something. I think Martial's biggest issue is he doesn't convince everybody that he's working hard and he really wants to be there and he's happy. The body language element is key. I disagree with that view. I think Martial does work a lot harder now than he used to, especially in a central role. I think he's a very, very talented player, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder. We've got Kid City on now. He's a Man City fan. What do you make of the comments that Paul Scholes has made about Anthony Martial?
Hello, Terry. How are you?
I'm good. What do you make about Paul Scholes' comments?
It was kind of weird because, like, I was seeing that, just a couple months ago, he was saying, he's a proper number 9. He's pretty good. So it's kind of weird seeing that. But I guess it has to do with the recent form, and maybe he's seeing things that Martial's doing right now that he didn't do before. Personally, I think Martial is a good number 9. I don't think he's like the elite level yet, but I think there's still time for him to prove himself because he does have the quality for number 9.
Yeah, I think, they're certainly right. There was comments maybe about a month or so ago where he was talking about how well Anthony Martial has done. I think that echoes on why he said he feels conned, because he feels like, I think what I see with Paul Scholes and Martial is Martial will get criticised by Paul Scholes for elements of his game. Paul Scholes will see him improve those elements, and you'll see Paul Scholes go, okay, he's doing it now. And then Paul Scholes feels like that disappears, and I think it frustrates him. And he's entitled to that opinion, as I say. A lot of Man United fans dislike Ollie because they feel conned by him. His first 3 or 4 months, he looked like he was going to be an amazing manager, and then suddenly it fell apart. And I think you've actually heard like Rance say the words, "I felt conned," or "Ollie conned us. He's a fraudster." Some people feel that way about Anthony Martial, and if it's okay for Joe Bloggs to feel that Ollie's a con artist, why isn't it okay for John Smith to feel that Martial is in the same way? In terms of your train of thought and logic, it should be acceptable. I personally think Martial's a top player and Man United should keep him. Kid City, thank you very much for calling the show. Next up, we have Russell on the line. Russell, welcome back to the Football Terrace. What are you saying?
Thanks for having me, Terry. What's going on, bro?
I'm all good, my friend. What do you make about Paul Scholes' comments?
I'm disappointed, man. But at the end of the day, it's his opinion. Let me just start off by saying that, and I respect it. I don't think a certain player should be everyone's cup of tea, so I don't have really a problem with that. But what I would like to do is challenge his opinion, which I'm saying, and say,
Russell, I hope you can hear me. Your signal is absolutely shocking. Try and go somewhere where you sounded like a cross between the Terminator and like RoboCop and Terminator had a baby. Try and call us back when that signal's a little bit better, please, my friend. Would love to hear your opinions on that, though, mate. But just a need to. I can't hear you. I can't be anymore. I have to be honest with you there. Francis here says, I like how Terry says Cavani is on 100K a week. while a lot of sources say it's 250k. But at the same time, Terry is adamant Aubameyang is on 750, while sources say that he's on 250. Listen, I don't read the newspapers as such when it comes to that. Remember what my old job was. Remember what my good friends and close friends of mine do for a living, and who they manage and take care of. And then ask yourself how maybe I have an understanding of what people are earning. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. I don't get my information around salaries that people are earning and bonuses that people are on from the mainstream media. That isn't where we seek that information, just for you. I thought I'd answer that question. Comment here says, it's not fair to call someone racist just because they don't rate a player that you do. You could say fans abusing James, Rashford and Maguire are being anti-British. Listen, I think it's wild. I get the homegrown bias. I get the academy bias. People may have it. But like I've said, if Paul Scholes didn't like foreign players, he wouldn't suggest signing Haaland. Haaland, as far as I'm aware, is not English, as an example. I've heard him praise Bruno because Bruno does what he thinks a player should do in a Man United shirt. So he praises it. And I'm sure, I don't seek the information. I bet you could find him praising all manner of players in the Man United team who don't happen to come from our academy or hold a British passport. I'm sure that is the case. But we will see. I don't look into it deeply enough. I just listen to the man's opinions on football. Some of it I agree with, some of it I disagree with, and that's the whole point. Everyday Same is back on the line. Everyday Same, what do you make about Paul Scholes' opinions on Anthony Martial?
Well, I'd like to hear how he said it.
Yes.
Because he may have used the word con and being like bad in an articulate sense. It may have just been the wrong word, so I don't know about that. But the whole Anthony Martial thing, it gets a bit boring for me because both sides of the argument are correct. Is he a number 9? A typical number 9? No, he's not. Do you need a typical number 9 to win the league? Liverpool proved no, you don't. Did he get goals last season? Yes, he did. Has he? The only thing I would question about Paul Scholes is him saying he conned us because he's played bad the first couple of games. But the reason he's played bad is for the same reason the whole team's played bad, is because they're unfair. And as a United fan, I remember a couple of years ago when we played Tottenham and we had Lukaku up front, and Lukaku got about 2 chances and Harry Kane was provided about 10. So we do have to, think about the team and what they provide. It's like the Lukaku thing again. I'm not sticking up for Lukaku. I'm not saying we should have kept him or anything. But the guy scored 27 goals, his best league campaign in his first year at Manchester United, in a sideways back to, passing team. And then people were surprised when he went to another team that supplied him with service and he scores loads of more goals. So I just think it's daft, the whole conversation about Martial.
There's an element, I understand where you're coming from, and I think the biggest thing that isn't being said, people see, what happens is people that love Martial see a derogatory comment about him. They don't seek the context, the tone of voice, how it was said, even what was said before and after, and the journalists are very clever. They won't ask Paul Scholes, what we do here? We do a phone call and we say, what do you mean by that? Explain that. What about this? We have a conversation and it enables your opinion to be framed. Some of the viewers still ignore the framing and the context and the rationale. But very rarely when people do interviews, do they ever ask, it's why, like Sky Sports, they do 10 minutes of talking to review a game, right? YouTubers do like an hour and a half reviewing a game because we go into great granular detail. You'll get someone turn around and say, yeah, I don't think Anthony Martial is good enough in that number 9 role. And they leave it there and they get asked no more questions. People go, he doesn't think Martial's a good football player. He may not, I get you've interpreted that way. Maybe he didn't mean it like that. What I would love to see the interviewer say is, well, where do you think Martial should play? Where's his best position? How do you think, if you got Haaland, how could you utilize him and Martial together? You might see Paul Scholes sit there and praise him there, but they don't want that. They know that you're going to react the way you do. Aside from that, I think a lot of what you said is right. I don't necessarily think a traditional number 9 is going to help us, but fans have also got to sit back. The fans have also got to sit back and start relaxing a little bit. There was a reason why 4 years ago, Jose Mourinho wanted to sign Ivan Perisic because he wanted players in wide positions to be able to cross the ball in, to put it on Lukaku's head so Lukaku would score more goals. And our fans cried cried. Martial plays there, though. It's Martial's position. The point Jose was making is, well, they've signed me a striker, by the way, that I didn't want. Now I need somebody that can get the ball to Lukaku in the right areas where Lukaku will be at his devastating best. Man United fans rejected that notion, right? Don't get Perisic. We don't get Lukaku leaves. Lukaku's now at a club where he's being supplied like that. He's killing it. And these same Man United fans are like, see what happens when he's in a system that works for him? Bro, you guys were against creating a system that works for him because your favorite player might not play. You guys care more about your favorite players than you do your club. It's a madness.
Okay, sorry, let me say a couple of things towards that, because I was going to mention those things. The thing with Perisic was, the worst thing was Manchester United fans were blaming Inter when we tried to hold their feet to the fire. So you do the maths. We get Perisic in that team. Lukaku scores an extra 15 goals that season. We lost the title by 17 points. That's a title challenge we could have had if we'd have got Perisic. The other thing that I'd like to say is that people are going on, and especially Paul Scholes, we need this number 9, we need this number 9. We got rid of Ruud van Nistelrooy and became a better team. Who's a better number 9 than Ruud van Nistelrooy?
No, I understand, mate. I totally get that, and I totally understand it. And I think that you make some good points. So Liverpool have done well without having a traditional number 9 as an example. Paul Scholes is giving that opinion, though. But listen, bro, every day, same. Thank you for coming on. Everyone who's tuned in today, thank you. Smash the like button right now, please. We're back later on tonight. Remember, Anita's going to be live with That Chelsea Show, so make sure you're tuning in. Until then, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless, and we'll see you all again.